We are discussing the topic of concurrency control in database management systems, and there we are discussing what are the lock based protocols. In lock based protocols, the system provides a set of locks, and there are two types of locks: shared locks and exclusive locks. If a transaction acquires a shared lock, it can only read on a data item queue. But if it acquires an exclusive lock on a data item queue, then it can read and write both on the data item. The operations provided by the system: lock S, lock X, and unlock. And the compatibility function is that if a transaction has locked it in shared mode, then another transaction can lock the same data item in shared mode, but not in exclusive mode. And if a data item has been locked in exclusive mode by a transaction, then no other transaction can lock it either in shared mode or exclusive mode. The intention is to lock and unlock variables so that you provide mutual exclusion. But we have just seen previously that there are problems by locking and unlocking in any arbitrary fashion. For example, in this case, we saw that if we lock and unlock a data variable as quickly as possible, that is, we lock it just before we do the read and we unlock it just after we do the write, then we may reach a schedule which is not conflict serializable, and in fact we may reach situations which are not consistent at all. Therefore, now we need to think about what are the guidelines of writing out the lock and unlock functions, so that the schedule is at least conflict serializable or consistent, and there are no other problems, because it is the onus of the programmer to write out the transaction correctly. The system will schedule it as it is provided to the system. For this, one of the most well known mechanisms is called the two-phase locking protocol. In the two-phase locking protocol, we see that any transaction Ti will acquire a set of locks and unlock them during various phases. The guideline is this, that you must do it in such a way that you never lock a data item after any unlock operation. That is, no transaction must have unlock Q and after that a lock P. That was the problem here. The problem here was, since you unlocked this, somebody else quickly entered. Since you have unlocked this, this whole transaction is going to run. Before you have locked Q, so before this one runs completely, this one runs in the middle. So in order to avoid that, in two-phase locking protocol, you have got a growing phase in which a transaction, in the growing phase, a transaction may acquire locks but not release them. And in the shrinking phase, a transaction may release locks but not obtain or not acquire any new locks. This means that in any transaction Ti, if it has got 5 or 6 shared variables, the lock and unlock, forget the read and write, the lock and unlock functions will be a set of lock and then unlock. So that in between you are not locking and unlocking, in between you do not acquire any more new locks. This is the two-phase locking protocol. This is the basic guidelines or the rule of the two-phase locking protocol. Now let us see what will happen to our example in the two-phase locking protocol. What was our example? We had read P, then we had read Q, and write Q. The two-phase locking protocol will say that here you will lock XP, here you will not unlock P because you have to acquire another lock. So you will do, now you will unlock. This is the idea that you get through. And what about the next one? The other transaction, you had read Q, then read P, then display P plus Q. Here again you will lock S Q, lock S T, and then unlock Q, unlock P. So if we follow two-phase locking protocol, then we reach a situation like this. Now, will this be conflict serializable? That is, will there be any schedule which is not conflict equivalent to a serial schedule? Is it possible to have a schedule which is not conflict equivalent to a serial schedule? Let us see. While this runs, this will not run fully, because if this has acquired a lock and gone in, this cannot run fully. This can only run partially. But if it runs partially, then it will wait till this one is over. And whatever this one has done before can be moved down or up below. So we will see that if we follow two-phase locking protocol, then we will always get a conflict serializable schedule. But in this particular case, if both the schedules run, there may be some other difficulties. There may be a situation of deadlocking which can occur here. For example, if the scheduling starts with this one, then here, then here, and then control goes here. This does this does this, okay, and then this one comes here, but this cannot, this will wait here, this will wait here, while this waits here. So this will do some busy waiting and its time slot may be over, or it may go into a suspend state. When time comes to this one, this will execute this, and here it will start waiting, because this is an exclusive lock, somebody else has acquired it. So if there is any schedule which goes through, it will be conflict serializable. But there may be some situations in which the schedule is not conflict serializable, is not going to go through. That is, the whole schedule will be blocked midway, and this will be waiting for this to start, and this will be waiting for this to release. This is a situation which we called a deadlocked situation. In the sense that a transaction Ti is waiting for a transaction Tj to release a lock, and Tj is waiting for Ti to release a lock, and therefore the schedule, the system will go into some deadlock state or suspend state or whatever. But if the schedule does go through, then the schedule will be conflict serializable. How will we avoid this deadlock mechanism? The next question which comes to our mind is, how, let us say in this particular program, how would we avoid any deadlocking? Can we avoid deadlocking? That is, can we write down these two transactions so that deadlock will never occur? Yes. If we read P first and then Q, and or if we lock P first and then lock Q. That is, let us rewrite the whole thing. Here we do whatever we were doing. And here, let the program be same, we just change our lock functions. Now let us have these two transactions. Now by the mechanism of locking, we have first locked P and then Q, though, sorry, this is P. Though this reads Q first and P second, we lock P first and Q second. Now whenever this enters, this will not be entered till this goes through. So we have made sure that these two transactions are such that they will occur only serially. We have made sure that they will run only sequentially. They will never run, the mechanism of locking has been such that they will never be able to run concurrently in actual overlap mode. If this starts, then this will wait till this finishes. Maybe in this particular step, when this has unlocked this one, then this can start up to here. Maybe it can occur in overlap mode only up to here. If T2 starts, this is T2. If T2 starts, then T2 will continue up to here before T1 can start. And if T1 starts first, then T1 will continue up to here till T2 can start. So effectively they are serialized. So now we have got a two-phase protocol which will give you conflict serializability, but we will see that effectively we will start serializing everything. The concurrency may be lost. And secondly, this is the first question, is how to enhance concurrency in two-phase locking protocol. If everything is going to get serialized, then there is not that everything is going to get serialized here, because if it stops here, then this much can run, or another protocol which has got in shared mode can run simultaneously with this one. We have just ensured that this one and this one effectively run one after another. Others can run in parallel with them. Can we enhance the concurrency a little more? And the second question is, how? What are the guidelines by which I will know that I have to do P first and Q second? I am writing down one transaction at this particular point of time. How will I know I have to do Q first and P second? So we have to formalize these two ideas. So let us do them one by one. We will first look at enhancing the concurrency aspect. For that, what we do is what is called lock upgradation. We introduce some more functions. We have got lock S, lock X and unlock. We have got these three functions. We add some more functions. We add two functions, upgrade Q and downgrade Q. These are called lock conversion functions. What does upgrade Q do? Upgrade Q converts a shared lock to an exclusive lock, and downgrade Q converts an exclusive lock to a shared lock. And we modified two-phase protocol saying that in the growing phase, we can only lock or upgrade locks, and downgradation of locks is allowed only in the shrinking phase. So we have got two additional guidelines in the two-phase protocol: upgradation possible in growing phase only, and downgradation allowed in shrinking phase only. That is, we allow lock conversion from shared to exclusive only in the growing phase when we acquire locks, and when we release locks we allow downgradation. We do not allow downgradation in the beginning. Then we will fall into the same problems of conflict serializability which we got into earlier. Now let us see how we modify the previous two-phase protocol program which we had, the correct two-phase protocol program. Let us see how we will modify it. We will first acquire the lock. We are reading this. We are reading P, so acquire the lock only in shared mode. Since we are reading P, we will acquire the lock in shared mode. P assigned P minus 100. The next statement is write P. Before writing, we upgrade P. And then do write P. Now P is in exclusive mode. Now the next statement is read Q. Since we are only reading Q, so that is the next statement is read Q. Since we are only reading Q, we lock Q in shared mode. Next statement is write Q. Since we will write Q, we must take an exclusive lock, so we upgrade this lock. We have finished all our operations. Now instead of downgrading, we can simply unlock both P and Q. So here we have got lock in shared mode, read it, upgrade it, then write it. So till now it is in shared mode. So let us see what is the situation with our the display function. In the display function, we will lock P first and Q second. That was the idea, and both in shared mode. Now let us see the advantage of having this. This will still give you a protocol which is conflict serializable. There will be no deadlock. Just like this one, there will be no deadlock. It will still be a conflict serializable one. But here in the original one, if T1 entered this, T2 cannot even start. But now, if T1 enters this and the time goes out before it does an upgrade, then T2 can go in. Otherwise, even if the time slot came up here, and if this was locked in exclusive mode and the time slot here came here, this will either become suspended or do busy waiting, both of which would be a lot of CPU overheads, and if it is busy waiting, it is just a wastage of time. So by this lock upgradation, we still maintain our ideas of consistency. We still have conflict serializable schedules, and we also have deadlock free schedules, but we have enhanced concurrency. Next, we come to the question of formalization of this concept of which variable to lock first and which variable to lock second. How will we formalize that? Let us go back to the example. We have come a long way from saying that we will lock and unlock as quickly as possible. So we will lock and unlock as late as possible in some sense. Not as late as possible, but not earlier than a certain amount of time. That is, we will lock first and then unlock. Secondly, though this reads Q first and P second, we are forced to lock P first and Q second. And a person writing a transaction may not know what are the other transactions which are written, who has locked in what order. So this order must be known. Therefore, the system, whenever the first transaction is written, or the system provides a data dependency saying that somebody has locked in the sequence A, then B, then C, and then D. Somebody has done a locking in this sequence. Now another person comes and says, I require B first, I am reading B first, A second, and D third. This person will take into account the already present dependency graph, and based on this dependency graph, this person will lock A first, B second, and D third. Let us see, another person comes, and this does not modify the dependency graph because all the elements are already present in the dependency graph. A third person comes. A third person comes and says, I will lock B first, A second, and E third. So he is told that no, you have to lock A first and B second. You are reading B first, A second, it does not matter. You look at the graph. In fact, you can have another program to do it. There is no problem. You can just have another program which just changes your locks, just shifts the lock up and down. And this person will say, you've got B and A, but I have got the dependency AB. So you first lock B and then A, and then you lock E. Obviously, it's foolish to lock E first. It may not be foolish, but at the present point of time, you may lock E last. And you may append the dependency graph appropriately. For example, one option would be like this. One option would be make this like this. Now a third person comes and says, I want to do A, E, and D. Then that person will be told that you have to lock A first, D second, and E third. And this way you can go on having this structure. But this structure will, after some time, give you a dependency, clear linearly ordered dependency. This linearly ordered dependency will tell you the order in which locking is to be done, independent of the order in which you are going to write the variables. So if this dependency is there, we now have a mechanism for writing out a locking protocol which is conflict serializable as well as deadlock free. And using the upgrade and downgrade functions, we are able to have more concurrency. But for some people, this still is not satisfactory. For example, let us go back. A dependency graph exists. And somebody comes up saying, I read in the sequence B, A, E. So this person is told you lock in the sequence A, then B, and then E. That is fine. And after that, we were updating D, that E must come after D. That is not necessary. We can simply say that E must come after B. So instead of having a linear structure, we can put in the dependency as close as possible. Alright. If we put in the dependency as close as possible, next time somebody comes and says A and E, A, E and D, then you can tell that person to lock A, E, D. If you say lock A, E, D, you will put in this dependency. So what you get is called a data dependency graph for locking. But what if this graph has cycles? You will not allow this graph to have cycles. You cannot make this graph start having cycles. So this graph must be acyclic. This graph must be acyclic. Only if the graph is acyclic can you try and have a locking protocol which is free of the difficulties of inconsistency. We will now see what is the protocol, that is, what are the rules. We will now list down the rules if this data dependency graph is a tree. All right, and we will call it the tree protocol. I'll repeat.
B, C, and E.
I have got B, A, E, and based on that I have made this. Now suppose I get A, B and D. Sorry, A, E and D. Now what is the order in which I will do it? I can do it in the order A, D, E, or I can do it in the order A, E, D. Suppose I do it in the order A, E, D. I can do it in any order, none of them is going to give me a cyclic dependency. If I do it in A, E, D, then I will have to add this edge to the dependency structure, so that later on people will not do D before E. The order between C and E is left alone till somebody decides the order. Why we do not put the order? We leave it free, so that if somebody comes up with the saying that I need C and E, then you are free to choose the order in which you want to do C and E. Because if you put this, you may get a cycle. If you put this, you may not get a cycle. If somebody does C and E and you put this,
Would we automatically make it
A, B, C, E, or A, B, E?
Would that link be removed?
Would this link be removed? This link is now not necessary anymore. You have got A, B, E, and all transitive links may be removed. If a link is transitive, that is, when I've got A, B, E, I know E comes after A. So transitive links can be always removed from the graph. But why I leave some of these free? So that later on I can insert it in the particular direction I want and prevent a cycle from occurring. And whenever cycles come up, I have to cut the cycle, reorder it, and make a reordering of the whole thing. I must ensure that they go in strict sequence. I keep as much flexibility as possible. Instead of linear, I could have linearly ordered the whole thing, but that would make it a lot of problems in future maybe. Now this dependency graph must be acyclic first, and if it is a tree, then we have a very nice and simple locking protocol, which we shall see now. That is, let us assume that we have got A, B, C, D, E, F, suppose this is the structure. Then how do we write down a tree protocol? If the tree protocol says if somebody wants to lock C, you lock A, B and then C. If you want to lock G, lock A, E, F and G. Sorry, I'm sorry. If you want to lock G, you can lock G directly. We will see the protocol. There is no point of locking the whole path from the beginning. But if you want to lock A and G, then you must lock it in this sequence. So let's see the. It's not a difficult one. Each transaction Ti can lock a data item at most once. That's obvious, and must observe the following rules. The first lock by Ti may be on any data item. First lock can be on any data item. Subsequently, a data item A can be locked by Ti only if the parent of A is currently locked by Ti. Data items can be unlocked at any time, and subsequent relocking is not allowed. So 4 rules. One is you can lock any data item. But if you lock, once you have locked a particular data item, then if you want to lock any other data item, then the parent of that data item must also be locked. And data items may be unlocked at any time, and subsequent relocking is not allowed. Anytime you want, you can unlock. That is, you do not need to maintain lock and unlock and lock and then unlock. You can unlock anytime you want. But if you lock, then you must lock its parent. This is slightly different. Our two-phase locking protocol would have said that you lock A, F, lock G, and then unlock. Then you would have also got it. The tree protocol here is a slight variant. You are allowed to unlock as quickly as possible, because if you unlock as quickly as possible, then you can get a lot of concurrency. If you unlock as quickly as possible, you get a lot of concurrency. So in order to maintain the consistency, tree protocol says if you want to unlock E, lock E, I don't mind. But next, if you want to unlock G, lock G, then you lock F. Why? This is because you are allowed to unlock at any particular point of time. Since you are allowed to unlock at any particular point of time, you must lock the whole path. If you do not lock the whole path, then after E, somebody else may just lock A and F, and you are locking E and G. And you will see that somebody locks A, E, F, and you are locking E and G. Then after you have locked E, that person will wait for you, and you will wait for him to lock that data item. You will get non-serializability as you got in the previous case. So either you maintain two-phase locking protocol in which you do a sequence of locks and unlocks maintaining the dependency, first lock and then unlock, or you maintain the tree protocol where if you want, you can unlock at any point of time, but if you lock, then lock the whole path. And what you can try and prove is that this tree protocol also is both conflict serializable and deadlock free. So either you have a dependency based two-phase locking protocol or you have a tree protocol. Both of them will be conflict serializable and deadlock free. The advantage of tree protocol is that it allows earlier unlocking and more concurrency compared to a two-phase protocol where you have to first lock, do all your operations and then unlock. So this is how there are more complex variations of locking protocols. In fact, we have seen that the dependency graph itself may be an acyclic graph rather than a tree. And if it is an acyclic graph, then how do you acquire your locks and unlocks? And what are the protocols which prevent all the possible failures is another issue. We shall not tackle them. What we shall see is another different style in which again the user is not bothered about how to lock and unlock a transaction, but the system takes care of maintaining that whatever you do is a consistent schedule. whatever scheduling is done is a consistent schedule. It is slightly different from the conflict serializability checking that was done earlier. It is based on what is called time stamping, and we will see the time stamping protocol in the next class.